In 2025, most young workers expect to change jobs within 2 years. The career path that once promised a stable 40-year run and a comfortable retirement is now almost unrecognizable. Technology, remote work, and the rise of the gig economy have rewritten the rules. Only 12% of private sector jobs now offer pensions, and job mobility has become the norm rather than the exception. Many workers now juggle multiple sources of income just to keep up. The old model of climbing a single corporate ladder is fading fast. What's replacing it? The answer starts with how and where we work today. The remote work revolution. Remote work has reshaped the professional landscape. In 2025, nearly 60% of employers operate as team remote, and a growing share of professionals now expect to spend at least part of their careers outside a traditional office. This shift is especially visible in startups, tech companies, and businesses in high-cost cities, where remote-first policies help reduce overhead and attract talent. The trend isn't slowing. Projections estimate that 22% of the U.S. workforce, or 36.2 million people, will be working remotely by the end of the year. Early doubts about remote work have faded. Companies once worried that employees working from home would slack off, but the data tells a different story. A 2-year study analyzing over 800,000 employee responses found that most reported stable or even increased productivity after the move to remote work. In fact, a Bristol engineering firm reduced weekly hours for its remote teams and saw a 40% reduction in product defects. The focus isn't on hours logged, but on output, what actually gets done. Many organizations are now tracking deliverables instead of time spent at a desk, and the results are hard to ignore. The remote model has also changed how teams interact. With fewer in-person meetings and less office chatter, many workers report more uninterrupted time to focus. HubSpot's internal surveys showed that remote employees average 4.5 hours of deep, focused work per day, compared to 3.7 hours for their in-office peers. This boost in focus is credited with driving higher quality work and faster project turnarounds, even as employees take more control over their daily schedules. Traditional career advancement paths have been disrupted. In the past, being seen in the office and building relationships with decision-makers often led to promotions. Now, with location-agnostic work, those opportunities are less common. The old system of face time equals career advancement has broken down. Instead, companies are experimenting with flatter structures and self-directed teams. According to a recent HR survey, there's been a 41% reduction in management hires since 2022 as organizations eliminate or shrink layers of middle management. The managers who remain focus on coordinating between autonomous teams rather than overseeing individual contributors. Results-only work environments, especially in tech, have become the new standard. Employees are judged solely on what they deliver, not when or where they work. One software developer at a remote-first company regularly finishes his weekly assignments by midweek, then spends the rest of his time on freelance projects. His employer doesn't mind, as long as the work is done on time and meets quality standards. The emphasis is on measurable results, not visible effort. Not everyone finds this environment easy. About 42% of remote workers say they feel disconnected from company culture. The same tools that help productivity, project management platforms, asynchronous communication apps, can make spontaneous collaboration harder. A marketing specialist described her team as efficient strangers. They consistently hit their targets, but haven't shared a non-work conversation in months. Some companies try to foster connection through virtual coffee chats or online team building, but participation is often low. Hybrid work remains common in industries that are slower to adapt, like law and financial services. As of August 2024, 28% of the U.S. workforce is working remote or hybrid, according to OECD data. In these fields, junior staff are frequently required to come into the office, while senior partners work remotely from wherever they choose. This double standard breeds resentment among younger employees. One associate at a Wall Street firm described watching partners dial into meetings from vacation homes, while analysts commute to nearly empty offices. The shift to asynchronous work has also changed how teams communicate. Instead of live meetings, teams spread across time zones rely on recorded video updates and collaborative documents with time-stamped comments. This approach gives employees more flexibility. but it also means less spontaneous problem-solving and fewer chances for informal mentorship. Underneath these changes, the foundations of corporate hierarchy are coming apart. Compensation and advancement increasingly depend on measurable output. One sales team at a major retailer now earns commissions based solely on closed deals, with no bonuses for team player behavior that used to matter in promotion decisions. Workers who thrive as independent self-starters are flourishing, while those who depended on office social structures or visible effort for recognition are struggling to find their footing. The remote work revolution has stripped away the invisible scaffolding that once shaped corporate careers. Promotions no longer follow predictable timelines. Networking takes deliberate effort, not just being in the right place at the right time. For many, the boundaries between roles and responsibilities are less clear than ever. As remote work becomes the norm, another force is quietly transforming the workforce, one that's even more disruptive than the disappearance of the office. AI job displacement accelerates. Artificial intelligence is no longer a distant threat to the workforce. It's a present reality, fundamentally altering the shape of white-collar employment. By 2025, nearly half of U.S. companies have adopted AI tools like ChatGPT, and almost half of those report that the technology has already replaced workers, according to a resume builder survey. The shift is most visible in entry-level and repetitive roles. Instead of hiring a team of junior analysts to sift through data and generate reports, companies now rely on AI systems that automate these tasks in seconds. McKinsey estimates that 20 to 30% of tasks in many jobs are automatable, and the World Economic Forum projects that AI will replace some 85 million jobs globally by 2025. The impact is especially pronounced in industries that once relied on large numbers of junior staff as a training ground. Law firms, for example, now use AI to draft contracts and briefs, leaving partners to handle negotiations and court appearances. The hours that used to go to junior associates for document review and research have evaporated. Accounting firms deploy AI to audit transactions, and consulting companies use algorithms to assemble presentations from client data. Across sectors, companies report a noticeable reduction in entry-level hiring as AI takes over foundational work. The rise of hybrid human-AI roles is changing what it means to be a professional. Instead of separate teams for writing, design, and analysis, many organizations now seek specialists who can direct AI tools and refine their output. LinkedIn data shows a surge in job postings for AI prompt engineers and similar roles, while a McKinsey survey found that 80% of senior leaders plan to advance their AI maturity within the next 3 years. These new positions often command higher salaries, sometimes 20% above traditional roles, but require constant upskilling. Today's digital marketer is expected to master not just social media platforms, but also AI image generators and language models. Legal and financial services are not the only sectors feeling the effects. In marketing, content teams that once employed a dozen people now rely on a handful of specialists to craft prompts and edit AI-generated drafts. In customer service, AI chatbots handle routine inquiries, with human representatives stepping in only for complex issues. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report indicates that 86% of employers expect AI to transform their businesses by 2030. Even in creative fields, AI generates generic content at scale, while human specialists focus on distinctive work that machines can't replicate. This rapid change puts pressure on workers to adapt. According to Qualtrics, 25% of employees have upskilled for AI-related tasks, but 40% are resistant to learning new skills. Many workers invest personal time to learn emerging platforms, only to find those tools quickly replaced by newer ones. PwC forecasts that by 2030, 30% of tasks could be automated, creating a constant demand for reskilling. Some employees give up on traditional retraining and shift to gig work in less automated fields, seeking stability outside of rapidly changing office environments. Despite the promise of efficiency, the AI-driven workplace brings new challenges. Performance monitoring has intensified, with workers evaluated not just on their own output, but on how effectively they manage and correct AI-generated results. Customer support reps are now graded on how quickly they approve AI suggestions, while editors see every revision tracked and analyzed. Buffer's survey found that 27% of U.S. employees feel micromanaged, a number that has grown as digital oversight tools proliferate. A new class of professionals, sometimes called AI whisperers, has emerged to bridge the gap between human workers and AI systems. These specialists don't just use AI, they optimize its integration into business processes, knowing when to trust automated suggestions and when to intervene. Their expertise is in high demand, with many working as freelancers or consultants across multiple companies. Oysterlink data shows that in 2024, 4.7 million gig workers in the US earned over $100,000, many by leveraging advanced AI skills. As AI automates foundational tasks, traditional career ladders are breaking down. Without entry-level roles, companies struggle to train future managers. Law firms and banks face shortages of senior professionals who never learned basic research or underwriting because those functions were handed to machines. Some organizations experiment with rotational programs to fill the gap, but results are mixed. Compensation models are also shifting. While some AI specialists command premium pay, many workers see their roles devalued as automation increases the supply of available talent. Developers who master AI coding tools often earn more, while those in roles less directly tied to AI face stagnating or declining wages. The relationship between workers and employers is growing more transactional. Medium-term job stability is rare, and employees increasingly view themselves as temporary operators for systems that could soon make their roles obsolete. Many keep a financial cushion, not for emergencies, but to fund retraining when the next wave of automation arrives. Meanwhile, employers hesitate to invest in long-term development, knowing that needed skills may change within months. The definition of work itself is shifting. Tasks now cross traditional job boundaries as employees supervise AI, troubleshoot its mistakes, and take on responsibilities that didn't exist a few years ago. Adaptability has become the most valuable skill, as the old promise of a steady career path fades. For many, the challenge is no longer just keeping up with technology, but finding a place in a workforce where the rules keep changing. Against this backdrop of automation and uncertainty, a new generation of workers is responding in unexpected ways. Gen Z's workplace rebellion. Gen Z's approach to work is direct, pragmatic, and often at odds with the systems built by previous generations. Instead of climbing the corporate ladder, many young employees question whether the ladder is worth climbing at all. In survey after survey, more than half of workers under 25 say they reject the idea of waiting years for promotions or tying their identity to a single employer. Their priorities are different: clear boundaries, fair compensation, and transparency about expectations. The rise of quiet quitting is one way this plays out. For Gen Z, it's not just about doing the bare minimum. It's about sticking closely to what's in the job description and refusing to take on extra work without clear agreement. Some workers print out their employment contracts and reference specific clauses when managers ask them to handle additional tasks. This isn't passive resistance. It's a deliberate strategy to avoid exploitation and maintain balance in their lives. Social media has accelerated this shift. Career coaches on TikTok, with audiences in the millions, share advice on automating repetitive tasks, negotiating salaries, and handling unpaid overtime requests. Popular templates circulate, showing how to politely decline extra assignments by citing prior commitments or ambiguous scheduling conflicts. These tactics are not about laziness. They're about navigating a workplace that often expects more than it's willing to compensate. Contract work is another hallmark of Gen Z's rebellion. Many young workers now prefer short-term, well-defined projects over open-ended salaried roles. In recent surveys, a majority say they would accept lower pay in exchange for clear expectations and a set end date. A graphic designer might choose a 6-month contract, knowing exactly what's expected and when the work will end. This approach removes the ambiguity and unspoken obligations that come with traditional employment. No last-minute requests, no unpaid overtime, no pressure to attend after-hours events. Unpaid internships, once a rite of passage, have nearly disappeared. Since 2020, the number of unpaid internships has dropped dramatically as Gen Z refuses to work for experience alone. Law firms and political campaigns that previously relied on unpaid labor now offer hourly wages and stipends to attract applicants. The few unpaid roles that remain are often filled by those with financial support from home, which has actually narrowed access to these opportunities rather than broadened it. Negotiation tactics have also changed. Instead of asking for higher salaries, many Gen Z employees focus on flexibility, like a 4-day workweek or remote-first arrangements. When a young software developer at a mid-sized company requested a shorter workweek at full pay, she backed up her request with productivity data. The company agreed to a trial, and when her output stayed high, the policy became permanent for her and several colleagues. For this generation, time and autonomy often matter more than incremental pay. Increases. Transparency is non-negotiable. Young workers want to see exactly how promotions are decided and what compensation looks like at every level. Some companies now publish promotion criteria and pay scales internally, sometimes in response to employees circulating unofficial spreadsheets comparing salaries and bonuses. In other workplaces, Gen Z hires have pushed for public skills matrices, so everyone knows what it takes to move up. This demand for openness is shifting the balance of power away from subjective decisions and toward clear, measurable criteria. The concept of culture fit is increasingly viewed with suspicion. Gen Z job seekers often interpret it as code for conformity or bias. When interviewers emphasize fitting in with the team, some candidates walk away. Companies that drop culture fit from job postings and focus on skills and outcomes report more diverse applicant pools and stronger overall performance. The best teams now prioritize complementary strengths over personality similarities. Mandatory social events and team bonding exercises are losing their appeal. Gen Z workers tend to skip happy hours, retreats, and other activities that blur the line between work and personal time. Some have even challenged employers who penalize them for not attending, pointing to their contracts as evidence that participation isn't required. The most successful social initiatives now come from employees themselves, voluntary groups organized around shared interests, not top-down directives from management. Mental health is another area where expectations have shifted. For Gen Z, taking a day off for mental health is as normal as calling in sick for a physical illness. Many companies have added mental health days to their benefits packages, and some have moved to unlimited policies in response to burnout. Employees are more likely to use these days, and managers report that people return to work more focused and productive. Gen Z's resistance to traditional workplace norms isn't about a lack of ambition. It's a rational response to seeing older generations face layoffs, burnout, and broken promises. They save aggressively, not for retirement decades away, but as a buffer against job instability. Immediate, controllable compensation matters more than long-term benefits that may never materialize. A 23-year-old might decline a job with better health insurance in favor of higher hourly pay, reasoning that flexibility and cash on hand are more valuable than deferred rewards. Even the emotional labor of pretending to be on at work is losing ground. Young employees are less willing to fake enthusiasm or participate in performative engagement. When criticized for not appearing engaged in meetings, some cite research showing that facial expressions don't predict productivity. For Gen Z, authenticity is a baseline expectation, not a bonus. As Gen Z's values reshape the labor market, companies face a choice: adapt or lose talent to competitors who offer clear terms and genuine respect. The old model of career loyalty and incremental advancement is giving way to a new set of priorities, ones that demand flexibility, transparency, and agency. This shift is laying the groundwork for broader changes in how work is structured and compensated, opening the door to new models of employment that are rapidly gaining traction. The gig economy goes mainstream. For a growing share of workers, the gig economy is no longer a backup plan. It's the main way to earn a living. By 2025, nearly half of the U.S. workforce participates in gig or project-based work, a dramatic increase from just a few years ago. This isn't just about driving for rideshare apps or delivering food. Professionals in marketing, design, finance, and education now build careers by combining several income streams at once. A typical week for a digital marketer could include part-time agency work, freelance consulting, and producing online courses. The idea of a single, stable employer has been replaced by a patchwork of jobs, each contributing to a broader financial strategy. Platforms have adapted to this demand for flexibility, evolving from simple job boards into sophisticated ecosystems for managing multiple gigs. Instead of searching for long-term contracts, many workers now seek out micro-projects that last a few hours or days. A graphic designer might sell quick turnaround logo packages between meetings, while a CPA offers brief tax consultations during lunch breaks. Niche platforms cater to specialized skills, letting a teacher earn extra income by editing academic papers, or a musician sell custom jingles. These micro-engagements allow people to maximize their earning potential without committing to a single employer or schedule. The rise of gig work has also created new types of hybrid careers. One science teacher supplements her salary by tutoring online, making educational videos, and selling lab kits. A software engineer keeps a traditional job for the benefits, but earns more through short-term coding projects on the side. These anchor jobs provide a safety net, while the rest of their income comes from a rotating mix of gigs that can be scaled up or down as needed. Freelance platforms have grown more complex, offering bundled services that let workers package related skills together. A photographer might list not just photo sessions, but also editing, printing, and social media marketing. The platforms themselves now provide tools for contracts, payments, and client management, reducing overhead and making it easier to operate as a solo business. This shift has blurred the line between independent contractor and small business owner. One of the biggest challenges for gig workers is access to benefits. Without employer-sponsored healthcare or retirement plans, many turn to portable benefits accounts or join professional associations for group rates. In some states, legislation now requires platforms to contribute to benefit funds based on worker hours. Collectives and unions have stepped in to negotiate discounts on insurance and other essentials, helping to fill the gaps left by the traditional employment model. Taxes have become a source of confusion and stress for many in the gig economy. With income coming from multiple platforms, workers juggle dozens of tax forms and must track expenses across different jobs. New reporting requirements have helped some, but informal payments and cash gigs remain difficult to document. Accountants say clients often underestimate quarterly tax payments, leading to surprises at filing time. For some, managing the paperwork and staying compliant is nearly a job in itself. The unpredictable nature of gig work brings new risks. Income can swing wildly from month to month, depending on demand and seasonality. A freelance writer might earn well during busy months and then face a sharp drop-off. Many workers keep backup gigs they can activate during slow periods, but the lack of a steady paycheck requires careful budgeting and emergency savings. Some platforms and financial services now offer income smoothing tools and usage-based insurance, helping workers manage volatility, but these solutions remain imperfect. The structure of gig platforms continues to change, often in ways that benefit companies more than workers. Many platforms charge higher fees for premium listings or faster payments, and some require freelancers to pay for access to better clients. Algorithms track acceptance rates and penalize workers who turn down too many jobs, making it harder to control their schedules. The constant need to monitor apps and respond quickly to new opportunities blurs the line between work and personal time, leading to stress and burnout for some. In this environment, skills are increasingly commoditized. Platforms rank workers by ratings and algorithmic profiles, making personal branding more important than ever. Some workers spend as much time optimizing their profiles and gathering testimonials as they do performing actual tasks. High ratings are critical. One bad review can mean fewer opportunities. Others chase certifications that boost their visibility on platforms, even when those credentials have little impact on real-world performance. Payment systems are often opaque and unpredictable. Some platforms hold back a portion of earnings as security, while others use surge pricing models that make it difficult to plan ahead. Bonus structures shift with demand, and workers sometimes struggle to calculate their true take-home pay. This uncertainty pushes many to diversify across multiple platforms and job types to minimize risk. Those who succeed in the gig economy treat their work like a business. They analyze market trends, specialize in underserved areas, and reinvest in tools or training that improve efficiency. A translator who focuses on medical documents, or a fitness coach who bundles training with nutrition advice, can out-earn generalists by creating comprehensive solutions for clients. Repeat business and direct relationships become crucial, with some workers moving clients off platforms to avoid fees and build more stable income streams. The gig economy's expansion has fundamentally changed how people think about job security and career progression. Instead of waiting for promotions or relying on a single employer, workers build resilience through multiple income sources and a flexible approach to employment. As the boundaries between roles, industries, and job titles blur, the traditional idea of corporate loyalty is being replaced by a new kind of career pragmatism: corporate loyalty extinction. The decline of corporate loyalty is now unmistakable. In 2025, the average job tenure for workers under 35 has dropped to just 1.7 years. This isn't about impatience or lack of commitment. It's a direct response to a shifting employment landscape. Career paths that once followed a predictable arc have fragmented into a series of overlapping roles, projects, and skills. LinkedIn profiles now highlight clusters of competencies rather than a single, upward trajectory. The era of long service awards is almost over. Only 9% of companies still offer them, a clear sign that both employers and employees have moved on from the notion of decades-long loyalty. Internal promotions have become rare. Since 2020, they've dropped by 42% as companies increasingly look outside their own ranks to fill key roles. This is less about disloyalty and more about market dynamics. External candidates often command higher salaries and bring in-demand skills, while those who stay in place see only modest raises. A marketing manager who switches companies every couple of years can see her salary jump nearly 50% in 3 years, while her colleagues who remain loyal might only see incremental bumps. The message is clear: the market rewards movement, not longevity. Stories like Jason's are everywhere. At 29, he's worked in 3 different industries in 5 years, each move bringing more responsibility and a significant pay increase. His career isn't a straight line. It's a web of overlapping skills and roles. For him and many of his peers, staying put means stagnation, while strategic moves offer growth and leverage. The stigma once attached to job hopping has faded. Now, it's seen as smart career management. The expectation of continuous job searching is now standard. Even those who are happily employed keep their online profiles up to date and their networks active. Recruiters report that candidates openly discuss their next move during onboarding. This isn't a lack of engagement. It's a rational response to a workplace where company loyalty is no longer reciprocated. Roles are viewed as assignments, not destinations. Boomerang employees, those who leave and later return, have become a fixture in this new reality. Workers depart for better offers, gain new skills, and come back at higher levels or with better deals. Employers have learned to welcome returning staff, valuing the fresh perspectives they bring. The taboo around leaving has faded, replaced by a recognition that the best talent may cycle through several organizations over the course of a decade. This churn has created real challenges for HR departments. Some companies report rehiring nearly their entire workforce every 2 years. The pace of turnover has forced organizations to streamline hiring and onboarding, shifting from long, immersive training programs to rapid plug-and-play setups. With so many employees coming and going, companies hesitate to invest heavily in long-term development. The result is a feedback loop. Less investment in people leads to more turnover, which in turn justifies even less investment. Managers, in turn, are reluctant to assign critical, long-term projects to employees who might be gone before the work is finished. Teams struggle to maintain continuity, and valuable institutional knowledge is lost as people leave. In some organizations, departing employees are now required to document their workflows before receiving their final paycheck, a small attempt to slow the loss of expertise. To address instability, companies have shifted towards skill-based hiring and project-based work. Rather than rewarding tenure, they prioritize demonstrated ability. Teams form and dissolve around specific needs, with employees moving between roles as projects demand. This fluid structure allows organizations to respond quickly to changing needs, but it comes at the cost of deep institutional ties. The narrative around career progression has changed. Parents and career counselors now encourage young professionals to focus on building a portfolio of projects and skills rather than aiming for a single long-term employer. Resume gaps are no longer red flags. They are expected features of modern work lives. The most adaptable workers thrive, treating their careers as a series of short-term investments rather than a lifelong commitment to one organization. Compensation models have adapted as well. Retention bonuses have largely disappeared, replaced by signing bonuses and project completion awards. Some companies offer immediate, tangible rewards for finishing key initiatives, while annual performance incentives tied to tenure have become rare. Employers know that loyalty can't be bought with promises of future rewards, only with meaningful, immediate benefits. Counteroffers are less effective than they once were. Some employees accept stay bonuses only to leave soon after, while others use competing offers to negotiate better terms without intending to remain. The most successful professionals time their moves to coincide with project completions or budget cycles, maximizing their leverage in a market that values results over loyalty. Industries that cling to old models of advancement are losing ground. Law firms that insist on partner-track systems see young associates leave for tech companies offering immediate leadership roles. Investment banks that demand grueling hours watch their best talent depart for jobs with more flexibility and better work-life balance. The organizations that adapt by offering clear incentives, flexibility, and opportunities for impact are the ones that retain top performers. Workers now approach their careers like investors manage a portfolio, balancing stable roles with higher risk opportunities and always keeping an eye out for the next move. Side projects and alternative income streams are common, serving as both a hedge against instability and a path to new opportunities. In this environment, security comes not from loyalty, but from having in-demand skills and the ability to adapt. These changes reach beyond individual careers. Pension systems and health benefits designed for long tenures are under strain. Social safety nets built around traditional employment are showing their age, as more people move between jobs and careers with increasing frequency. Navigating this patchwork of protections requires new strategies and a willingness to piece together support from multiple sources. Specialist recruiters and contract managers have found new opportunities in this environment, matching talent to shifting needs and assembling teams that can hit the ground running. Workers who excel at rapid onboarding and immediate impact are in high demand, while those who rely on traditional career paths find fewer options. The ability to show value quickly has become a key asset. The extinction of corporate loyalty isn't a generational quirk. It's a systemic shift driven by economic and technological change. Companies and workers alike have adapted, seeking stability through skills and flexibility rather than tenure. But as the social contract between employer and employee continues to unravel, the question of who provides security and how has become more urgent than ever. The death of traditional benefits. Traditional employee benefits have undergone a quiet but dramatic transformation. Defined benefit pensions, once a staple of private sector employment, are now nearly extinct. Just 12% of private sector jobs offer them, compared to 35% in 2000 and over half a generation ago. This decline isn't just about cost-cutting. Companies have shifted the risk and responsibility for retirement squarely onto individuals, replacing pensions with defined contribution plans like 401(k)s. The result is a workforce that faces far more uncertainty about the future. The median 401(k) balance for workers aged 35 to 44 is only $28,000, a figure that barely covers a few months' expenses in many cities, much less a secure retirement. As these traditional safety nets disappear, workers have had to adapt. Portable benefit accounts have become a lifeline for people who change jobs frequently or work multiple gigs. These accounts let employees carry their retirement and health savings from one employer to the next, treating benefits as personal property rather than a perk tied to a single job. Some platforms now allow automated allocations from every paycheck, sending a portion to healthcare, retirement, and even continuing education, regardless of who signs the check each month. Younger employees, facing the reality of student debt and rising living costs, are driving a shift in benefit priorities. Student loan repayment assistance now outranks retirement, matching for many workers under 30. For some, a monthly payment towards student loans is more valuable than a distant promise of retirement savings. Companies that offer these targeted benefits see a clear uptick in applications and retention from younger talent. One marketing professional chose her employer specifically for the $300 monthly student loan contribution, a benefit that made a bigger immediate impact than a standard 401(k) match. Startups and smaller firms are experimenting with more flexible, individualized benefits. Some now provide annual lifestyle budgets that employees can use however they want on health insurance, gym memberships, childcare, or even mortgage payments. These budgets, often tracked anonymously, allow companies to see what workers actually value and adjust offerings accordingly. Mental health services, once an afterthought, now account for a growing share of these flexible budgets as employees prioritize well-being alongside financial security. The promise of unlimited paid time off, once seen as a bold new perk, has proven complicated in practice. Without a set number of vacation days, many employees end up taking less time off, not more. The ambiguity creates pressure to always be available, especially when managers send mixed signals about when it's acceptable to unplug. The most effective companies now set minimum vacation requirements, ensuring that workers actually take the breaks they need to stay healthy and productive. Family planning benefits have become a new battleground in the competition for talent. Fertility treatments, egg freezing, and adoption assistance are now common in white-collar compensation packages, reflecting the diverse needs of a modern workforce. Elder care support has also gained ground, with some employers offering resources to help workers manage the needs of aging parents. These benefits go beyond the one-size-fits-all approach of the past, recognizing that employees have different priorities at different stages of life. Even pet insurance has entered the mainstream, with more employers offering it than dental coverage in some sectors. This shift mirrors changing demographics, as younger workers delay having children but invest heavily in their pets. For some, pet insurance is a deciding factor in job offers, and companies that ignore these preferences risk losing out on top candidates. The way benefits are administered has changed as well. Subscription-style models let workers pick and choose coverage options, much like streaming services. A freelancer might pay for mental health coverage during peak stress periods, then pause it during slower months. Others can upgrade or downgrade life insurance as needed. This a la carte approach matches the realities of a workforce that moves frequently between jobs and projects. At the core, traditional benefits were designed for a world where people stayed with one employer for decades. Today, most workers will have a dozen employers and several careers. Systems like 401k, and employer-tied health insurance are ill-suited for this reality, often leaving gaps in coverage and inconsistent contributions. These cracks become most visible during job transitions, when workers can lose benefits or face unexpected costs. Some companies are starting to rethink the entire approach. Rather than promising future rewards, they focus on immediate, tangible benefits, like financial planning sessions, transition insurance that covers healthcare between jobs, or direct cash bonuses for completing key projects. The message is clear. Benefits must be relevant to workers' lives today, not just a distant promise for tomorrow. This uneven landscape creates new disparities. Employees at innovative firms may enjoy on-site childcare, financial coaching, and generous leave, while gig workers and contractors are left to fend for themselves. Some companies exploit these gaps by classifying workers as independent contractors to avoid providing benefits, even when those workers have little control over their schedules or work conditions. Policymakers struggle to keep up, and regulation often lags behind the rapid pace of change. Workers' attitudes have shifted alongside these changes. Benefits are now seen as negotiable compensation, not a gift from employers. Employees are more likely to demand specific allocations, dollar amounts for student loan repayment, mental health coverage, or other priorities, rather than accept a standard package. In response, some startups have revived old ideas in new forms, such as portable retirement accounts with matching funds that follow workers from job to job, or short-vesting pension plans that reward loyalty over a few years instead of decades. As each generation brings new expectations, employers are forced to adapt. Mental health, work-life balance, and flexibility are now at the center of benefit discussions, pushing companies to move beyond the traditional healthcare and retirement binary. The landscape is still shifting, and benefit packages that once seemed standard now look outdated and out of touch. Amid these changes, a different kind of workplace backlash has started to take shape: the hustle culture backlash. Pushback against hustle culture has become a defining feature of today's workforce. Interest in anti-hustle philosophies has surged. Google searches for the term have jumped 340% since 2022. Workers are openly rejecting the grind mindset that dominated the last decade, trading endless hours for a more measured approach to productivity and life. What started as a fringe movement is now shaping mainstream attitudes about what it means to succeed at work. The 4-hour workweek, once dismissed as a fantasy, is gaining real traction. Professionals are experimenting with compressed schedules, not to do less, but to focus on high-value tasks and reclaim time for themselves. This isn't just a cultural shift, it's backed by research. Studies show a clear productivity ceiling for knowledge work. After about 25 hours a week, output plateaus and error rates climb. Software developers working 35-hour weeks produce no more quality code than those capped at 25. The extra time usually gets wasted on rework and unnecessary tweaks. Similar patterns hold across creative, analytical, and planning roles. The evidence is clear. More hours don't equal better results. Personal stories illustrate how this shift plays out. Darren, a former startup founder, now works a deliberate 3-day week consulting for select clients. He's traded long hours for long weekends, spending the extra time on hobbies and travel. His income is slightly lower than before, but his quality of life has improved dramatically. Clients see no drop in value. His focused availability means he delivers the same results in less time. For Darren, the calculation is simple. A shorter workweek brings more satisfaction and better work. This anti-hustle mindset has also fueled the rise of so-called lazy girl jobs. The term is misleading. These roles aren't about doing nothing, but about choosing jobs with predictable hours, clear boundaries, and minimal stress. Workers are gravitating toward positions that let them clock out on time and pursue interests outside of work. Administrative roles at stable companies, government jobs with union protections, and similar positions are increasingly desirable. A receptionist who leaves at 5 p.m. every day to take pottery classes is no longer seen as lacking ambition. Instead, she's part of a new wave that openly values life outside the office. Unscheduled time has become a new status symbol. Professionals now block out calendar slots labeled "Do Not Schedule" and treat them as non-negotiable. Some managers model this behavior, taking extended lunch breaks or midweek afternoons off, and encourage their teams to do the same. Far from slacking, these practices are framed as necessary for sustained performance. Teams that adopt them often see improved productivity and lower burnout. Companies are slowly adapting. Some have introduced mandatory digital detoxes, requiring employees to disconnect completely for set periods. Others have banned meetings on certain days or implemented results-only vacation policies. Time off is unlimited, as long as work gets done. These changes are often driven by necessity, as high turnover and burnout force organizations to rethink old habits. One agency saw a sharp drop in resignations after mandating monthly offline weekends. Another cut back on meetings and found that projects moved faster and employees were more engaged. Burnout is now seen as a management problem, not a personal failing. Executives track employee fatigue alongside financial metrics, and some tie leader bonuses to improvements in workforce well-being. Office layouts and norms are shifting too. Quiet rooms and nap spaces are becoming more common, though their use is still debated. The bigger change is in how work is structured. Companies are starting to align schedules with natural rhythms, letting early risers and night owls work when they're at their best. The anti-hustle movement isn't about laziness. It's about working smarter, not longer, and recognizing that technology's promise should be shorter hours and better work, not endless escalation. People who embrace these ideas report higher engagement and better results. One consultant, now working 30 hours a week, describes his output as more focused and valuable than during his old 60-hour weeks. Still, this shift isn't universal. Many workers, especially in healthcare, retail, and other frontline roles, can't easily reduce their hours. The benefits of anti-hustle culture are uneven, often reserved for knowledge workers and those with more autonomy. This has led to growing demands for right-to-disconnect clauses and more predictable schedules in union contracts. The conversation about work-life balance is expanding beyond offices and tech firms, reaching industries that have long resisted change. Perhaps the most significant change is how people define success. Where previous generations measured achievement in promotions and pay, the new standard is time sovereignty, the ability to control one's schedule and balance multiple priorities. Some choose freelance work or move to lower-cost cities for more flexibility, even at the expense of higher earnings. Professional profiles now highlight lifestyle choices, not just career milestones. Employers who fail to adapt are already feeling the effects. Companies that cling to old expectations of constant availability are losing talent to those offering more autonomy and flexibility. Workers are willing to take pay cuts or leave prestigious roles for better work-life balance. The message is clear: autonomy and time matter as much as salary and title. As organizations and individuals adjust to this new reality, the idea of a single linear career path is fading. Workers are looking for ways to combine different roles, skills, and income streams into careers that fit their lives, not the other way around. Portfolio careers take over. The portfolio career has moved from the margins to the mainstream. In 2025, 28% of professionals now identify as having more than one active income stream, shifting away from the idea of a single linear job. This isn't about having a side hustle for extra cash. It's a deliberate strategy for economic stability and personal fulfillment. A professional might split time between a primary role, freelance consulting, and an online business, each drawing on different skills and networks. The old model of one job, one employer, and one professional identity is fading fast. This shift is driven by more than just economic anxiety. Many workers see portfolio careers as a way to combine specialized expertise with broader interests. The T-shaped professional is now the norm. Someone with deep knowledge in one area, but a working grasp of several others. A nurse, for example, can maintain clinical expertise while running an Etsy shop and consulting for health tech startups. Each role reinforces the others, and the mix evolves as new opportunities arise. The goal is not to be a generalist, but to blend distinct skills in ways that create unique value. Hybrid roles are everywhere. An accountant might run a baking channel on YouTube, a lawyer could ghostwrite legal thrillers, or an architect might design virtual spaces for gaming companies. This isn't just novelty. Combining unrelated skills often leads to niche markets and higher earning potential. The ability to cross boundaries and connect dots is increasingly prized. Employers and clients look for people who can bring together technology, communication, and creativity in ways that pure specialists cannot. Platforms have adapted to support this new reality. LinkedIn's portfolio feature, introduced in 2024, lets users display projects, clients, and skills as a collection rather than a timeline. Recruiters now search for candidates who can show a track record across different industries and project types. Instead of a single job title, profiles highlight consulting projects, published work, and entrepreneurial ventures. This approach helps professionals market themselves to a wider range of opportunities and makes it easier for organizations to identify talent with the right mix of abilities. Managing the complexity of multiple careers takes planning and discipline. Successful portfolio professionals create clear systems to keep their roles separate and avoid burnout. They use color-coded calendars, distinct email addresses, and dedicated time blocks for each venture. Digital tools help maintain boundaries, but it's the ability to prioritize and say no that matters most. Not every opportunity fits the overall strategy, and spreading too thin can quickly undermine performance. The most resilient practitioners regularly reassess which income streams are worth keeping and which need to be dropped. Financial management becomes more complicated as well. Juggling freelance contracts, business income, and part-time employment means tracking expenses and revenue across different sources. Many turn to accountants who specialize in multi-career clients, using separate bank accounts and meticulous records to stay organized. Tax planning is a year-round concern, with quarterly payments and careful allocation of deductions. Even a simple home office might serve as a base for consulting, product development, and online sales, all requiring separate documentation. Overlooking a detail can lead to costly mistakes or audits. The economics of portfolio careers are fundamentally different from traditional employment. Rather than relying on a single paycheck, professionals spread risk across several sources. When one stream slows down, another can pick up the slack. For example, if hospital shifts become scarce, a nurse can increase consulting hours or focus on product sales. This flexibility makes it easier to weather industry disruptions or personal life changes. Income may fluctuate, but the overall approach is more resilient. Professional development also looks different. Instead of climbing a single ladder, portfolio workers add new rungs wherever they see potential. They attend conferences in multiple fields, learn new tools on the fly, and draw connections between seemingly unrelated domains. This cross-pollination often sparks innovation. A teacher who learns graphic design can create better learning materials, while a marketer who codes can bridge gaps between business and tech teams. The ability to move between fields and adapt quickly is now a core advantage. Building and maintaining networks requires a broader approach. Relationships from one domain can open doors in another. A nurse's hospital contacts might refer consulting clients, while craft fair connections could lead to new business partnerships. Some professionals keep separate profiles or brands for each venture, while others integrate everything under a single identity, depending on what fits best. The key is to leverage every connection for maximum benefit without losing focus. There are risks. Not everyone thrives in this environment. Some become perpetual dabblers, never developing true expertise in any area. Others underestimate the administrative load. Managing contracts, marketing, and compliance across several ventures can be overwhelming. The most effective portfolio professionals are ruthless about time management and honest about which streams actually deliver value. They treat their careers as dynamic portfolios, adding and removing elements as the market and their interests shift. For many, the hardest part is redefining professional identity. Introducing yourself as a nurse, consultant, and entrepreneur can feel awkward at first. Over time, most learn to lead with the value they offer rather than a job title. This shift in mindset is essential for navigating a world where roles and skills change rapidly. Organizations are starting to recognize the benefits of portfolio careers. Some employers offer flexible schedules or reduced hours so workers can pursue other ventures. Others create internal marketplaces for employees to offer services to colleagues, blurring the line between internal and external entrepreneurship. These arrangements bring fresh perspectives and new skills into the workplace, benefiting both sides. The rise of portfolio careers signals a deeper change in the labor market. Security now comes from adaptability and the ability to build and combine skills as needed. In this environment, the skills economy emerges. Employers now judge candidates by what they can do, not where they studied. In 2025, the majority of hiring decisions rely on practical skill assessments rather than academic credentials. Companies want proof, coding challenges for developers, real-world writing samples for marketers, design exercises for creatives. Some firms have stopped requiring degrees altogether after finding no link between diplomas and job performance. Instead, they ask applicants to complete actual client projects on tight deadlines, using the same tools and constraints they'll face on the job. This shift has fueled the rapid rise of micro-credentials. Instead of spending years in a classroom, workers pick up specific certifications through platforms like Coursera or Udacity. These short, focused programs teach exactly what's in demand: cloud security, AI prompt engineering, advanced data visualization, updating their curricula every few months to keep pace with industry changes. A retail manager can become a data analyst in 3 months, doubling her salary after earning a targeted certificate. The machine learning course that was cutting edge last year might already be obsolete, replaced by a new module on generative AI. Micro-credentials make it possible to pivot quickly and stack new skills as the market evolves. Some of the highest-paying roles now reward deep specialization in emerging fields. AI prompt engineering, for example, has become a premium skill across industries. Legal firms hire specialists who can write precise prompts for contract drafting, paying hundreds of dollars an hour for expertise that blends technical know-how with domain-specific language. The best practitioners don't just understand how AI works. They know how to extract useful results by tailoring instructions to the needs of different industries. The difference between a generic prompt and one crafted by a legal expert can mean hours saved on revisions and higher quality work. Stories like Marcus's are becoming more common. He left college after a year and built a career as a blockchain developer, teaching himself through open source projects and online communities. Now he earns $300 an hour auditing smart contracts, a niche that barely existed 5 years ago. The coding languages he uses weren't part of any university curriculum when he started. His ability to learn new frameworks on the fly keeps him in demand, and he completes projects faster than most corporate teams. For Marcus and others like him, formal education is less relevant than a portfolio of recent, demonstrable skills. Lifelong learning is now a baseline expectation. Professionals invest hours each week in online courses, tutorials, and peer groups just to keep up. A graphic designer might spend evenings experimenting with new software releases, knowing that falling behind means losing clients. The pace is relentless. If you go a few months without updating your skills, you risk becoming irrelevant. This constant pressure to upskill brings its own challenges. Many workers describe a sense of exhaustion, always chasing the next certification or tool. A cybersecurity analyst spends evenings studying new threats, aware that yesterday's knowledge is already outdated. Some leave their fields altogether, citing burnout from the never-ending cycle of res killing. Skills marketplaces have added a new layer of transparency and competition. Platforms now show exactly what employers are paying for specific abilities, broken down by project type and experience level. A freelance writer can see current rates for technical documentation versus marketing copy. Programmers compare their hourly fees to others with similar skills. This visibility helps workers negotiate better pay, but it also creates pressure to keep adding high-value skills to stay competitive. Wage transparency is a double-edged sword. It empowers workers, but it also raises the bar for entry and advancement. The well-rounded candidate has fallen out of favor. Companies want specialists with deep expertise in areas that drive immediate results. A tech firm hiring for an AI trainer isn't interested in generalists. They want someone who knows large language models inside and out. This trend reverses decades of advice that encouraged versatility and adaptability. Now, organizations assemble teams of focused experts, each responsible for a narrow slice of the workflow. Senior developers or database architects can out-earn their managers by maintaining rare technical knowledge. And some companies have built parallel career ladders to reward those who stay hands-on rather than moving into leadership. Education systems are struggling to keep up. Universities still offer long degree programs in fields where the fundamentals change every year. Some institutions have started experimenting with subscription models, inviting graduates back for annual skill updates. Others partner with employers to create just-in-time training for specific job openings. The value of a degree has shifted from a guarantee of job readiness to a foundation for continuous learning. Employers expect workers to keep building on that base throughout their careers. Professional identity has become more fluid. Workers update their titles and skill sets as often as they change projects. A developer might rebrand as an AI integration specialist after mastering a new tool. LinkedIn profiles now highlight dynamic skill sections over static job histories. Recruiters search for unique combinations of abilities rather than linear career progressions. The most successful professionals treat their expertise like an investment portfolio, balancing stable core skills with time spent on emerging technologies, constantly rebalancing as market demand shifts. This new reality brings both freedom and instability. It's easier than ever to move into higher-paying fields by acquiring in-demand skills, but the lack of predictable career paths creates anxiety. Many workers worry about their abilities becoming obsolete, even as they enjoy greater autonomy and earning potential. The pressure to stay current is constant, and the rewards for those who do are significant. For employers, the skills economy has forced a rethink of training and compensation. Traditional programs can't keep up with the pace of change, so some companies now offer learning sabbaticals or stipends for self-directed development. Others build continuous education into the workweek, treating upskilling as part of the job. Compensation now tracks the market value of specific abilities, not just tenure or title. A programmer with rare expertise might out-earn senior managers, but those premiums can vanish if the skill becomes commoditized. The psychological contract between workers and employers has shifted. Career stability is no longer tied to tenure or loyalty, but to the ability to adapt and stay relevant. Both sides approach the relationship as a transaction. Employers hire for current needs. Workers invest in skills that maximize their options. This arrangement works until expectations diverge or the pace of change becomes unsustainable. As the skills economy becomes the new normal, the fabric of workplace culture is under strain. The same forces that reward adaptability and specialization are eroding trust in traditional leadership. Corporate culture in crisis. Employee sentiment about corporate culture is at a low point. In 2025, engagement has dropped to an 11-year low, and overall satisfaction is at a record low. The disconnect is visible everywhere, from the way employees talk about leadership to the daily churn of people looking for new jobs. This moment has been called the Great Detachment. Workers are not just disengaged, they're actively skeptical of leadership's intentions and the value of company culture itself. The roots of this crisis are easy to trace. Layoffs followed by executive bonuses, hybrid work policies that seem to benefit only the top brass, and a pattern of ignoring employee concerns have all contributed to a sense of betrayal. Many employees see C-suite messaging as little more than reputation management. Diversity statements and polished values are viewed as surface level, disconnected from lived experience. In a recent survey, more than 2/3 of professionals said they believe their CEO would sacrifice employee well-being to hit short-term targets. This isn't just a perception problem, it's a real breakdown in trust. Culture committees, once meant to foster a sense of belonging, have been reduced to damage control. At one tech firm, the committee spends most of its time responding to negative Glassdoor reviews and viral stories about toxic managers. Their main projects now include rewriting value statements after internal leaks and organizing listening sessions after public scandals. These efforts rarely address root causes. Instead, they reinforce the idea that company culture is about optics, not substance. With internal fixes failing, a new market has emerged: culture as a service. External consultants promise to diagnose and repair workplace dynamics with surveys, workshops, and canned training. One major retailer spent millions on a consultant-led culture accelerator that introduced gratitude journaling and weekly peer recognition. Employee satisfaction fell by double digits during the rollout. Most staff described the experience as tone-deaf and out of touch with their real concerns around pay and scheduling. These outside interventions often miss the mark, treating symptoms instead of causes. Some companies are trying radical experiments. A mid-sized software company scrapped all HR policies except for basic safety rules. The new approach relies on 3 principles: respect autonomy, take responsibility for impact, and communicate directly about problems. The results were surprising. Reported conflicts dropped, and employees described the environment as more authentic. Critics point out that this only works in highly skilled, self-motivated teams, and the model is hard to scale. But the experiment highlights how traditional rulebooks have become obstacles rather than supports. Perks meant to boost morale have lost their appeal. Meditation rooms, snack bars, and office game spaces are now seen as distractions from real issues. When a financial services company invested in an elaborate office renovation, a quarter of the staff left within months. Exit interviews made it clear. Employees wanted flexibility, not a barista bar. The most valued perks now address quality of life directly: meeting-free days, 4-day workweeks, and location flexibility. Transparency is reshaping the power dynamic. Employee review sites like Glassdoor have become critical tools for workers to hold companies accountable. A single negative review can trigger mass resignations or client losses. Some companies now employ reputation analysts to monitor these sites, responding quickly to emerging concerns. The narrative is no longer in management's control. Workers shape it in real time, and ignoring online feedback comes at a cost. Remote work has stripped away the performative side of culture. Rituals like all-hands meetings, forced happy hours, and team-building retreats have faded. Employees now see how much of what was labeled culture was just for show. In surveys, the majority of remote workers say their company's culture feels hollow or performative. The most successful organizations have shifted away from appearances, focusing instead on practical support. Stipends for home office setups, clear documentation, and results-based expectations. Middle managers have been hit hardest. They're expected to enforce unpopular policies while advocating for their teams, often without the authority or resources to do either well. Burnout among middle managers has doubled in the past few years, and many report spending more time on paperwork than on actual leadership. Some companies have responded by flattening their structures, rotating project leads instead of maintaining permanent manager roles. While this reduces bureaucracy, it can leave teams without reliable support. The clearest culture wins in 2025 come from radical transparency. Companies with high satisfaction rates share financials, strategy, and compensation formulas openly. Leaders hold regular forums where any question is fair game. This approach builds trust only if leaders are consistent. Any hint of dishonesty is quickly punished. Employees expect direct answers and visible follow-through, not just talk. Attempts to engineer culture with programs and perks have failed to address the core issue. People want real relationships, respect, and fairness. Workers can tell the difference between genuine camaraderie and forced fun. Teams that build bonds organically, through shared interests or voluntary groups, outperform those subjected to top-down initiatives. One accounting department saw participation in voluntary activities triple after dropping mandatory team-building events. The most resilient cultures share a few traits: leaders who show vulnerability, space for disagreement, and policies shaped by staff input rather than executive decree. One nonprofit credits its strong culture to democratic decision-making and openness to staff feedback, even when it means slower processes or difficult conversations. Their retention is high despite lower than average pay. Ultimately, the crisis in corporate culture comes from treating it as a branding exercise rather than an ongoing collective effort. Employees reject cosmetic fixes and want organizations to remove toxic elements, measure culture through honest feedback, and maintain it with consistent, everyday actions. What matters most is how companies respond when things go wrong, how they handle mistakes, whether they protect whistleblowers, and if they allow open discussion of problems. No slogan or perk can substitute for that. As companies struggle to rebuild trust and connection, the focus is shifting. The next wave of workplace change is not about perks or policies, but about meeting real human needs, rethinking work structures to fit people, not the other way around. The rise of the human-centric workplace. Human-centric workplaces are no longer a fringe idea. They are becoming the standard for organizations that want to attract and keep skilled workers. The shift is visible in everything from office design to management philosophy. Instead of expecting employees to adjust to rigid systems, companies are building environments around real human needs, with a focus on well-being, autonomy, and sustainable performance. Physical spaces are the most obvious sign of this change. The era of open offices is ending fast. In 2025, nearly 9 out of 10 new office builds feature private workspaces, soundproof pods, or enclosed team rooms. Companies are moving away from the noisy, crowded layouts that dominated the last decade. The new designs acknowledge that people need different environments to do their best work. Some need quiet for focus. Others benefit from collaborative areas that are now deliberately separated from core workspaces. This trend also includes accommodations for neurodiversity, like adjustable lighting and noise-canceling technology. These changes aren't just about compliance. They're about giving every employee the best chance to succeed. Rest and recovery are also being prioritized in ways that would have seemed radical a few years ago. Nap pods have become the most requested workplace benefit, and many companies are responding. Law firms, tech companies, and even financial services are installing dedicated spaces for short naps or quiet breaks. Usage data consistently shows that employees make use of these amenities at predictable points in the day, usually during natural energy dips. The message is clear. Rest is no longer seen as a sign of slacking off, but as a practical tool for maintaining focus and performance over the long haul. Management practices are evolving as well. Trauma-informed management is gaining ground, particularly in high-stress industries. Supervisors are trained to recognize signs of burnout or emotional distress, and policies are in place to allow employees to step back when needed. This approach has measurable impacts. Call centers and healthcare organizations that adopt trauma-informed practices report significant drops in turnover and improvements in morale. The focus is on creating an environment where people feel safe, respected, and able to recover from setbacks, rather than being pushed to the breaking point. Work pace and expectations are changing too. The relentless drive for speed and output is being replaced by a more humane rhythm. Companies are deliberately slowing down, allowing for deeper work and reflection. Publishing houses, for example, now assign fewer manuscripts per editor and allow more time for review, resulting in higher quality output and fewer costly mistakes. Architecture firms build in mandatory breaks between design phases, giving teams a chance to step back and catch errors before final delivery. These adjustments reflect a growing understanding that thoughtful work produces better results than constant urgency. Technology is being used more carefully. After years of installing monitoring software and tracking every keystroke, many organizations have found that productivity paranoia backfires. Employees who feel watched tend to focus on looking busy rather than producing real results. The best-performing companies now measure outcomes instead of activity, trusting workers to manage their own time. This trust leads to higher engagement, less stress, and often better financial results. Flexible scheduling is another hallmark of the human-centric workplace. Instead of generic flex time, companies are aligning work hours with employees' natural energy cycles. Some allow staff to choose core hours based on when they feel most alert, and meetings are scheduled during overlapping peak times. Software tools help coordinate these schedules, reducing context switching and allowing for longer stretches of focused work. Employees report fewer errors and higher satisfaction when they can work in sync with their own rhythms. Support for mental health and well-being goes beyond surface-level perks. Many organizations now offer lifestyle budgets that employees can use for anything from counseling to fitness to elder care. Mental health days are normalized, and some companies have introduced minimum vacation policies to ensure people actually take time off. The focus is on supporting the whole person, not just the worker. Learning and development are central to the new workplace model, especially for Gen Z and millennials. These workers want on-the-job learning, mentorship, and opportunities to build the soft skills, like communication and empathy, that matter most for their careers. Companies that offer structured mentorship, regular feedback, and clear paths for growth see better retention and higher engagement from younger employees. Face-to-face connection remains important, even in hybrid or remote environments. Gen Z in particular values in-person discussions for important topics, preferring authentic interaction over digital-only communication. This has led some organizations to rethink their approach to collaboration, balancing digital flexibility with regular opportunities for real-life connection. Human sustainability is emerging as a key competitive advantage. Companies are tracking well-being metrics alongside financial ones, and some have created executive roles dedicated to balancing productivity with employee health. The logic is simple. A workforce that is healthy, rested, and supported will outperform one that is burned out and constantly churning. These shifts are not happening everywhere at the same pace, but they are setting a new standard for what workers expect. The organizations that have embraced human-centric principles are seeing gains in innovation, retention, and overall performance. As the landscape continues to change, the question is no longer whether to invest in employee well-being, but how to design systems that support it. As companies adapt their work environments and cultures to better support people, the opportunities for both workers and organizations are changing as well. Where those opportunities are found, and who can access them, is beginning to shift in unexpected ways. The geography of opportunity shifts. Physical location is no longer the deciding factor for career growth. As remote work expands, the map of opportunity itself is being redrawn. Companies are no longer limited to hiring from their immediate surroundings or major urban centers. Instead, they cast a much wider net, recruiting talent from smaller cities, rural areas, and even across international borders. This shift is not just theoretical. It's visible in the numbers and in the changing character of workplaces. Cities that once played a supporting role in the national economy are now front and center. Places like Boise, Chattanooga, and Tulsa have become magnets for skilled professionals. Their appeal lies in a mix of affordable living, reliable infrastructure, and targeted policies designed to attract remote workers. Local governments invest in high-speed internet, co-working hubs, and tax breaks to make their cities more attractive to both companies and individuals. When a software company moved from San Francisco to Tulsa, the vast majority of employees stayed on, drawn by lower living costs and a higher quality of life. These strategies have paid off. Many mid-sized cities have seen a significant rise in college-educated residents under 40 over the past few years. The rise of digital nomad visas has made it easier for workers to live and work outside their home countries. Dozens of nations now offer special permits for remote employees, allowing them to stay for extended periods while contributing to local economies. Portugal's program, for example, has attracted tens of thousands of knowledge workers, while Barbados's 12-month visa remains popular with tech employees seeking a change of scenery. These visas usually require proof of employment and a minimum income, but they open the door to a more mobile and flexible workforce. Local economies benefit from increased spending, though some regions also face new pressures on housing and infrastructure. Location arbitrage is now a deliberate strategy. Remote workers weigh cost of living, tax rates, and quality of life when deciding where to settle. Earning a high salary set by a coastal employer while living in a less expensive region can dramatically increase purchasing power. For example, a software developer who relocates from New York City to rural Montana might accept a modest pay adjustment, but still come out far ahead financially. Companies often benefit as well, reducing payroll expenses without sacrificing talent. This approach is increasingly common, with both parties running the numbers to find the optimal balance. The logic behind coastal salary premiums is shifting. As distributed teams become the norm, some employers have standardized pay regardless of location, while others use regional pay bands with smaller adjustments than in the past. This causes some friction. Workers who moved during the remote work boom may expect to keep their old salaries, but the trend is toward narrowing pay differences based on geography. Compensation is now more often tied to job complexity and market demand than to an employee's address. Specialized talent hubs are emerging in unexpected places. Cities like Pittsburgh have become centers for robotics, while Bentonville has built a reputation in supply chain logistics. These cities offer concentrated expertise without the costs and congestion of traditional tech hubs. Professionals relocate to take advantage of these focused communities, and local economies adapt to support new industries. Coffee shops and co-working spaces are tailored to the needs of remote professionals, signaling a shift in the social fabric of these towns. The gig economy has become truly global. Independent workers in the U.S. now serve clients around the world, and the reverse is just as true. Companies routinely hire designers in Argentina, developers in Poland, and writers in the Philippines. This expansion brings new challenges. Time zone differences, legal compliance, and cybersecurity risks must all be managed. Still, the benefits are substantial. Businesses access a wider talent pool, and workers can pursue opportunities far beyond their home markets. Location flexibility also brings new inequalities. Popular remote work destinations often see rising rents and gentrification, pricing out long-term residents and service workers. Community tensions can flare when high-earning newcomers cluster in specific areas, changing the local character. Some cities respond with policies to preserve affordability, such as inclusionary zoning or community land trusts. Others invest in infrastructure and workforce training to ensure that local populations benefit from the influx of remote professionals. Business districts in major cities are being transformed. Office vacancies in central business hubs have reached record highs, prompting landlords to convert empty buildings into mixed-use developments. Micro-apartments, co-working spaces, and even hotels now fill towers that once housed corporate headquarters. This shift is uneven. Not all projects succeed, and some downtowns struggle with declining foot traffic and retail closures. Still, the overall trend is toward decentralization, with smaller, strategically located offices or remote work hubs replacing the traditional headquarters model. For companies, location-agnostic hiring means new management challenges. Teams are spread across time zones and cultures, requiring asynchronous communication and sensitivity to regional differences. Managers must adapt to coordinating work across continents, accommodating different holidays, and building trust in virtual environments. The payoff is a more resilient, diverse workforce, and often lower turnover as employees no longer need to relocate for advancement. The infrastructure supporting remote work continues to evolve. Small towns invest in fiber optic networks, airports add co-working lounges, and rural regions partner with satellite internet providers to attract digital nomads. These investments can boost local economies, though benefits are not always evenly distributed. Some workers, tied to specific locations by family or industry, find themselves excluded from the new mobility, and the geographic divide becomes one more axis of workplace inequality. As opportunity becomes less dependent on physical location, professional identity is shifting. Workers define themselves by skills and networks rather than geography. Digital communities form around shared expertise instead of office buildings or city blocks. Conferences and networking events are increasingly virtual, further decoupling career advancement from location. These changes are creating a more flexible, but also more unpredictable, landscape for both workers and employers. The rules that once governed where and how people built their careers are being rewritten. In this new environment, the ability to adapt quickly, the new rules of career choices about where to live career security and work has never been more important. The old promise of a safe, predictable job, one that could weather recessions and last decades, has faded. In 2025, the idea of a recession-proof career is little more than a myth. No sector is immune to disruption. Automation, shifting market needs, and global volatility have reached every corner of the workforce. Tech jobs that once seemed untouchable have been automated by AI. Healthcare, long considered a stable field, is now shaped by telemedicine and diagnostic algorithms. Even government roles, once the standard for security, are subject to budget cuts and restructuring. The average job tenure for workers under 35 sits at just 1.7 years. The lesson is clear. Betting on a single employer or industry no longer provides lasting security. What matters now are the skills and habits that allow you to keep moving, no matter how the ground shifts. The most resilient professionals have three things in common. They reskill, they cross-skill, and they network widely. Reskilling means picking up entirely new competencies as industries evolve. Cross-skilling is about applying what you know to different contexts, using your marketing expertise in healthcare or your logistics background in renewable energy. Networking, meanwhile, is the safety net that catches you when your current path ends. It's not just about collecting contacts. It's about building genuine relationships across multiple fields, so that when one door closes, another is already open. An anti-fragile approach to your career goes a step further. Instead of just surviving change, you find ways to benefit from it. The professionals who thrive are those who treat every disruption as a signal to grow. When newspapers collapsed, some journalists pivoted to corporate communications. When AI made basic content creation a commodity, others became trainers or consultants for new tools. Each pivot adds value, not just in skills but in perspective. The pattern isn't luck. It's a deliberate strategy of treating setbacks as invitations to adapt and expand. Financial resilience is another pillar of the new security model. With pensions nearly extinct and job transitions frequent, a personal savings buffer is no longer optional. 6 months living expenses is the bare minimum for most, with gig workers and freelancers often targeting a full year. The savviest segment their reserves: emergency funds, retraining budgets, and money earmarked for launching new ventures or covering gaps between contracts. This approach isn't about paranoia. It's a practical response to a world where layoffs, contract gaps, and industry downturns are part of the landscape. Being able to spot when an industry is starting to fade is critical. Early warning signs might include companies cutting back on training, slowing down on hiring, or shifting their investment away from core products. Professionals who pay attention to these signals can exit before the crowd, retraining or repositioning themselves for growth sectors. Some track industry health metrics, venture capital flows, infrastructure spending, or executive turnover to stay ahead of the curve. Others use their networks to gather intelligence from adjacent fields. The key is to avoid getting caught by surprise when the winds shift. Certain industries still offer relative stability, but none are immune. Roles that require human judgment, creativity, or hands-on skills remain in demand. Mental health counseling, skilled trades, and specialized healthcare are examples. But even these fields evolve, and the only way to stay secure is to pair industry choice with ongoing skill development. The ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn is now the only permanent asset. Adaptability isn't just a buzzword, it's a habit. Some professionals schedule regular skills audits, comparing their abilities against current job postings and industry trends. They let go of fading technologies early and test new ones before they become mainstream. This proactive approach reduces the risk of scrambling to catch up after a downturn. Others maintain active side projects, consult in adjacent fields, or keep a hand in multiple industries, so they're never starting from scratch if their main role disappears. The psychological adjustment is significant. Older models taught workers to value loyalty and steady progression, but today's most successful professionals expect to reinvent themselves, sometimes more than once. They choose flexible mortgages, avoid certifications that only apply to one employer, and keep their networks broad. Some maintain career dashboards, tracking which skills are in demand, which industries are growing, and where their own network is strongest. This mindset prioritizes readiness over prediction. Preparation is now the foundation of career planning. No one can forecast which industries will thrive 5 years from now, but you can prepare to move quickly. This means keeping your resume and professional profiles current, having a savings buffer, and practicing for interviews even when you're not actively looking. Scenario planning, asking yourself, what would I do if my job disappeared tomorrow? Is routine for those who avoid being blindsided. Portfolio thinking has replaced the old single-track approach. Professionals diversify their experience, income streams, and skill sets. Some teach part-time to keep academic connections alive. Others consult, volunteer, or build side businesses that could become primary income if needed. This spreads risk and creates more options. Security comes from having alternatives, not from staying in one place. Success metrics have changed as well. Instead of focusing on titles or lifetime earnings, resilient professionals measure the transferability of their skills, the strength of their networks, and their ability to quickly replace lost income. Career moves are evaluated by how much flexibility and optionality they provide, not just by salary or prestige. The most valuable asset is not a job, but the ability to move into a new one when circumstances demand it. The employer-employee relationship has fundamentally shifted. Job security is something you build for yourself, not something handed out by an organization. Workers manage their careers like free agents, always developing new skills, maintaining their networks, and scanning the horizon for what's next. The most secure are those who treat their career as a dynamic project, ready to pivot, experiment, and adjust as the world changes. This new reality demands a different mindset. Instead of following a set path, you need to run your career like a business, testing strategies, iterating quickly, and always looking for the next opportunity to grow. The CEO of You Incorporated taking ownership of your professional path now means adopting the mindset of a one-person enterprise. The concept of the CEO of You Incorporated has become the new framework for navigating work in 2025. Rather than relying on employers to chart a course, professionals apply entrepreneurial principles to every aspect of their careers. This shift is not about launching a startup, but about managing your career with the same focus, discipline, and adaptability that successful businesses use to stay competitive. The first hallmark of this approach is treating your skills and experience like a product portfolio. Instead of waiting for a manager to assign new projects or approve training, you identify market trends and invest in skills that are gaining value. A content strategist, for example, tracks which formats and platforms are growing, then dedicates a set portion of her week to experimenting with new tools or mediums. When one of these experiments, like interactive video, gains traction, she scales it up and integrates it into her service offerings, creating a new revenue stream. The process mirrors the lean methodology. Test small, learn quickly, and double down on what works. This entrepreneurial mindset extends to how professionals plan and measure progress. Rather than vague intentions like get promoted, people now set personal OKRs, objectives and key results for their careers. These OKRs break down big ambitions into measurable targets, such as increase freelance income from AI consulting by 20% this quarter, or complete a new certification by June. Tracking progress against clear milestones brings focus and accountability, and it makes it easier to pivot when the market changes. A UX designer might compare hours spent on paid client work with time invested in learning new design tools, ensuring that both immediate income and long-term growth are balanced. Self-assessment becomes a core business function. Professionals regularly benchmark their skills and performance against market data, just as companies analyze competitors. By reviewing job postings, salary surveys, and LinkedIn profiles, they identify which abilities are in demand and where they may be falling behind. One data scientist realized his general coding skills had become commoditized, but his experience in healthcare AI was rare. By repositioning himself as a specialist, he doubled his rates and opened up new consulting opportunities. This kind of competitive analysis turns intuition into informed decision-making. Investing in career R&D is another key strategy. High-performing professionals set aside time and resources to experiment, learn, and build new capabilities. A marketing director, for instance, blocks off time every week to try out analytics platforms, test automation tools, or prototype new workflows. This deliberate investment in learning pays off by keeping skills sharp and opening doors to new projects. Treating professional development like research spending, allocating a fixed percentage of income or time, ensures that growth doesn't fall by the wayside in the rush of daily work. No business thrives in isolation, and neither does a career. The most strategic professionals assemble personal advisory boards, trusted mentors, peers, and industry contacts who provide regular feedback and guidance. These boards might meet quarterly to review progress, discuss market shifts, or help navigate difficult decisions. The value comes from structured, diverse input, not just casual advice. Some professionals build digital networks through industry groups or online communities, ensuring a steady flow of new perspectives and opportunities. Pivoting is no longer a last resort, but a planned response to market signals. Professionals monitor indicators like declining demand, shrinking advancement paths, or new technologies on the horizon. When a graphic designer noticed more clients requesting motion graphics over traditional branding, she gradually shifted her focus, taking on small motion projects before making a full transition. Others preemptively add new services or skills when they sense change coming, moving before disruption forces their hand. Metrics matter more than ever. Instead of relying on resume lines or annual reviews, professionals track human capital KPIs: skills ROI, network reach, adaptability, and income stability. A consultant might analyze which types of projects yield the highest return with the least stress, then use that data to shape future business development. Some use dashboards to monitor the mix of clients, skills, and income sources, making adjustments as needed to maintain resilience. Financial management borrows from startup playbooks. Professionals separate accounts for taxes, expenses, and reinvestment. They calculate their runway, how long they can cover costs if income drops, and plan for different scenarios. This discipline replaces the old assumption of steady paychecks and employer-provided security. It's not about fear, but about being prepared for volatility and ready to seize new opportunities as they arise. Personal branding and negotiation have become more sophisticated. Professionals treat their online presence like a marketing campaign, testing different profiles and content to see what attracts the best opportunities. When negotiating contracts, they use data, case studies, market rates, and documented results to make the case for higher fees or better terms. They structure agreements with performance incentives and clear deliverables, shifting conversations from generic job descriptions to value-based partnerships. Risk management is proactive. Quarterly SWOT analyses, assessing strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, help professionals spot vulnerabilities before they become problems. Some maintain career continuity plans, mapping out how they would replace lost income or pivot to new roles if their main work dried up. Diversifying clients, industries, and skill sets builds a buffer against unexpected shocks. The rhythm of work now mirrors business cycles. Professionals set aside time for delivery, business development, and experimentation. They review progress regularly, adjust course as needed, and reserve capacity for high-potential opportunities. This disciplined approach is less about chasing every new trend and more about steady, intentional growth. The result is a career that operates with the agility and resilience of a well-run business. Professionals who embrace the CEO of You Incorporated mindset gain more control, flexibility, and satisfaction, even as traditional employment models continue to erode. They see companies as clients, not caretakers, and build careers designed to thrive in uncertainty. As more people take this approach, the boundaries between work and life begin to shift as well. The next evolution isn't just about how you manage your career. It's about how you design your entire life around what matters most. The future of work-life integration. As the lines between work and personal life continue to blur, the model of work-life integration is taking hold. Instead of treating work and life as competing forces to be balanced, professionals are designing daily routines that center their own needs and values, with work fitting in around those priorities. The concept is straightforward. Map out what an ideal day looks like, then determine how work can support, rather than dictate that vision. This approach starts with a clear-eyed look at personal non-negotiables. For some, it's being present for school drop-offs, blocking out time for exercise, or reserving evenings for family. A marketing specialist might shift her workday to begin after morning routines at home, structure her calls in concentrated blocks, and log off well before dinner. If needed, she'll return to focused work after the house quiets down. The point isn't to squeeze work into every available moment, but to ensure that professional obligations don't crowd out what matters most. Building a life-first career often means negotiating boundaries up front. professionals are more likely to approach employers with proposals that detail preferred working hours, communication preferences, and development needs alongside salary expectations. A financial analyst might present a schedule that maximizes deep work in the mornings and keeps afternoons open for personal interests. If the arrangement delivers results, companies are increasingly open to these requests, knowing that flexibility leads to higher engagement and lower turnover. The process reverses the old order. Life comes first, work adapts. This shift is especially pronounced among younger workers. Gen Z, in particular, is less interested in climbing a traditional corporate ladder and more focused on roles that offer flexibility and reflect their values. They're willing to accept lower pay if it means more control over their schedules or the freedom to pursue personal goals. For this generation, fulfillment is measured not just by professional achievement, but by the ability to integrate learning, relationships, and personal growth into everyday life. Employers have responded with new models. Job sharing, compressed workweeks, and hybrid roles are increasingly common. A product manager might split her responsibilities with another parent, ensuring both can be present for family commitments without sacrificing performance. Others negotiate 4-day workweeks or remote arrangements that allow them to live in locations that better fit their lifestyles. Companies that embrace these structures often see improvements in productivity and morale, even if they offer lower salaries than more rigid competitors. Work-life integration is not just about flexibility, but about intentional trade-offs. Professionals are setting boundaries around time and attention, refusing projects or meetings that don't align with their priorities. A project manager may decline any meeting request that lacks a clear agenda, while a consultant caps the number of clients to maintain quality and prevent burnout. These decisions are less about saying no for its own sake, and more about protecting the space needed for meaningful work and personal well-being. Non-negotiables serve as guardrails. Some workers set strict policies: no work after a certain hour, Fridays reserved for professional development, or dedicated time for physical and mental health. These boundaries are increasingly formalized in work agreements, or even included in contracts. A tech firm might list an employee's core hours and preferred communication styles in the offer letter, minimizing misunderstandings down the line. Upfront clarity prevents conflicts and helps both sides respect what's important. Success metrics are shifting as well. Instead of relying solely on traditional performance reviews, many professionals now track engagement, learning, and overall satisfaction alongside output. A teacher might measure her year by student progress and personal energy, not just test results. A designer may weigh creative challenge and schedule flexibility as heavily as client fees. This multidimensional view keeps work from overwhelming other aspects of life and encourages regular check-ins to ensure the balance still works. Integration also means being ready to adapt as circumstances change. Parents of young children might prioritize flexibility for a few years, then shift gears as family needs evolve. Health issues, caregiving responsibilities, or new personal interests can prompt a reevaluation of what the ideal work-life blend looks like. The key is intentionality, making conscious adjustments rather than drifting back into old patterns that don't serve current needs. Ultimately, work-life integration treats work as a means to a richer life, not an end in itself. Professionals are choosing roles that support their broader goals, whether that means lower pay for better hours, remote work for geographic freedom, or freelance arrangements that allow for seasonal passions. The most effective integrations come from viewing jobs as tools for creating the life you want, not as identities to be served at any cost. This ongoing shift is more than a trend. It's a structural change in how people relate to work. As professionals and organizations continue to reshape expectations, the definition of a successful career is being rewritten. The focus is no longer on following a set path, but on building a life that works. One where work supports, rather than overshadows, everything else. The landscape of work has undergone a fundamental transformation. This isn't a temporary adjustment or a passing trend. It's a permanent shift in how people earn a living, build careers, and define success. Automation and AI are rapidly eliminating old roles, while gig work, remote models, and portfolio careers become the new standard. Gen Z is setting the pace, moving quickly to seize control of their time and choosing employers who offer flexibility and purpose. Companies slow to adapt are seeing their best talent walk out the door. The real challenge now is not whether change is coming, but how quickly you can respond. In this new era, adaptability, continuous learning, and a willingness to let go of outdated expectations are the keys to staying relevant. The future belongs to those who shape